Q&A. So just want to raise your hand and we'll take a question and also say who the question is directed to. And we'll take a question at a time.
That's what you do and the use of technologies in everything, in art, television, when you go to exhibition. Do you think that the classic forms of art, which are painting and sculpture, will go towards their end? Because now the new generations need more entertainment, more lights, more flashes, whatever. So
what I'm trying to do consciously is, I was carrying a journal, and I feel like journal and paper, like pen on paper, that was like a traditional way of creating. And when I discovered like my tablet, I realized how easy and smooth and convenient it is to work from there. But there was a hesitation from buyers, which obviously they basically give you your salary. And while they had a hesitation on the work, I still continued. And I think it was only in 2017 when they caught up with the new media of drawing on a tablet. Because a lot of people will say, we still want an original, we want something that you actually put a mark on physically, and I'm like, but it's still the same thing. So I think just looking ahead of time, I think the way art is going to be made and consumed is going to be different, and I'm hoping, I still paint and do other experiments on paper, but it would be nice that when you go to the museum, you no longer see, like, in my mind, I'm just having the Mona Lisa in mind. Like, for instance, now you get to see something on a projector or something on a screen, and that is all you see. I don't know if you answer the question.
Can we actually ask
sculpture or paintings are in museum, and we've been touring our projects of the enemy, so this piece of work about reconciliation in long-standing conflicts, and it mixed with older arts, but we still need both arts. If the workers under the Micas doesn't go to the field and film those combatants, we cannot do the story we want to do. We cannot have any impact. And on the other way, the other side, if museum does not bring new content to their exhibition rooms, then the kids will not come anymore. So having this new media VR experience in the Arabic World Institute in Paris, for example, brought young people back to their museum, and they came back to discover other more traditional contents. And on top of that, I would say that I saw a lot of art presenting also an augmented reality app. Instead of the boring audio kind of story you tell you when you're alone with this, then you can share and have, for example, a translation real time of an Egyptian text. And so, well, again, we need to mix, and also to conclude, people are willing to pay for a ticket if they go in real life. And again, in the digital world, Google has made us think that everything's free because it's digital. While on the NE, this project, we've been working 120 people together to make it happen. So we have to find a way to monetize this content. And it was not possible in the digital media until probably this new era, I hope.
What is quite interesting is that it's a very, very new medium. So if you think about mediums, because you're talking about mediums, that even now there's a kind of big need, for instance, in the maker spaces, for people to learn about physical stuff. So there's also that other angle where you might be designing something digitally, but actually it becomes manifest in a physical way. So what Helene was talking about, this real kind of mix of interacting across that stuff, is reality. Like, we are in the world and we have digital stuff, so it does flow across quite dramatically. And also, digital is very new. So,
Just regarding the use or the restrictions of using archives and what the implications of like intellectual property rights are on that. So, for example, if I am a music producer, I create beats, I want to use a snippet of the Ravogna trial, which, I mean, maybe is not a good example because that's public, it's accessible to everyone. But what are the implications, if I wanted to use a piece of archive that's not, let's say, from the state, what are the implications of using those things? And then is new technology then in that sense not taking bread literally out of somebody's mouth, because now here's something that they're supposed to be making money out of, which is easily accessible from one click from the internet?
Yeah, so the Ravogna Trust, I'd like to say it's a court case, so after 5 years we have access to it. But there are other archives. Whoa. There are other archives, such as the Idées farm, which I was talking about, which holds private collections, where people almost loan it, and then it's really about getting to know where the repository is that you're dealing with. So, for example, at the Idées farm, I only know this because I worked there for a little bit, but if you're a researcher and a young person, they generally aren't going to charge you to make use of it. You have to sign agreements acknowledging the whoever's owning the intellectual property right, and then there's the host. But it's really when it gets, it's up to the individual archivist and whoever's their boss, because I know, for example, if it's a big publishing company that's coming from overseas who wants access, they're going to charge them something because they know they have the resources. But because it is still a sphere that's within knowledge production generally, there is that almost ethical obligation to try and make things as accessible as possible, but within reason. I don't know if they'd be keen on you just like selling it on t-shirts, wanting me without a footnote. Referencing, that's their most important thing, just referencing. So, yeah, but also do look at the Ravogna Trust stuff if you're an artist.
Does intellectual property stifle creativity or not? Because if it's music, they're going to want you to pay for that shit. So, I mean, and with you said you don't like commissions, and that means you might not like money. Is that the actual thing? Or you don't like the ownership of your intellectual property?
Regarding, and the others answered the last bit about money, I don't create with money in mind, and some days I wonder how will I even get a house. But what's interesting is that somehow it just ended up coming to my way. So, so I don't create with money in mind. I create with true expression. For me, it has to be genuine and true, and somehow it just comes back to me.
So with technology and mixing it with creativity, for artists and people who work in lots of different mediums, it seems like a lot of technology, especially VR technology, keeps getting forced down our throats, as in like with Samsung sort of coming out with the, oh yeah, you can now just use your phone and all this stuff. And it just feels like if someone is, when is technology going to actually cater for creativity instead of the creative person actually being like having to, like what we do, like what Vanilla does. I don't think every artist or creative wants to particularly work in the technology that's been provided for them at the moment. So when do you think that transition of technology actually giving back more to the creative community instead of just products being pushed out to people?
VR, for instance, is something that was started, was happening in the 1960s. But basically, there was no, it was really difficult to view it because it was like really big computing power that's required, and you had to go to a particular space to see it. And with the sort of advent of mobile phones and smartphones and the ability to run like huge amounts of processing on a phone, the reintroduction of VR into a kind of public space is very much centered around how those phones are trying to make money and explore what it is that they do and what the possibilities of that phone are. So, on and off VR has come in and out of popularity over the last couple of decades, and I think the sort of important thing there is to understand that you are looking at a trend. I think you're very aware of that in what you're saying, that you feel like you're being forced to engage with this, but you don't necessarily feel that it's part of how you want to be creative or engage in the world. And that's a really, really good position to have. But the position that I also have is how do we know that those mobile phone companies, those people that are basically leading technology, and we don't really have an opportunity to often engage in what happens there, especially in this perspective. So do we then just sort of say, okay, well, I'm going to challenge this thing. So I think a lot of creative practice with the VR is an opportunity to challenge that. And I've seen some of the most interesting VR practices coming out of the African content because it's asking a lot of questions about it. It's actually pressing it and poking it. And you know that then becomes complicated because then it becomes part of something else. But it is important to understand the trend and maybe challenge it at the same moment.
Hi. Yeah, I'd like to make a statement and a question about the topic about new technology being created. First, I'd like to say that new technology is taking us through a number of revolutions. We're talking about transformation on a daily basis. Society is transforming, and through new technology, we're going through a number of transformations, like I can mention a few. Web semantic, which will allow us to talk to a machine like talk to a human being. And you get a response from the computer like you're talking to your brother, your father, or your colleague. Nanotechnology, which will allow us to invent and create new material, and tomorrow we'll be able maybe to build the same building at a fraction of the cost with better insulation and create more value. And obviously, we're talking about every day about the digital transformation. What digital transformation creates, really, it's something I think is important to underline. It's what we call a sharing economy, a collaborating economy. And when you start tapping into this new economy, a new sharing economy, you get more purchase power because you move away from a usage-based economy to a sharing-based economy. You don't own a car anymore, you use a car. And by not owning a car, you get a lot more money in your pocket that you can use. And not owning a car, you don't have to bother about insuring the car, doing a mechanic, parking the car, paying the fine. So you get more time, and if you have more money and more time, I mean, what do you get? I mean, you as young students, last year, if you have more time and more money, what do you get? What do you do?
Wouldn't have to go out as much as the older generation would do. We'd have to go out, take fuel, and worry about expenses.
All right.
So it would make my life much more easier.
Yeah, it's great. Because you have more money and more time, so you can think about creating other services. And I think this is where new technology enables creativity, because it gives us more purchase power and more time so we can create. So now I'm going to my questions for you guys.
That's cultural and lifestyle limitations.
The question is about data, because we're receiving data every day, and we are exhausted by data. So I've got one question to something that you might not know. 18 April 1930 is a big date for me, because on 19 April 1930 happened something very interesting on the BBC News, which was nothing but a news channel. And what did the news channel broadcast on that day? Nothing. No news. They had nothing to say. The journalists received information from all over the world. There was nothing happening in India, nothing happening in France, nothing happening in South Africa. They played piano. Right? Where today, we receive data from all over the world, and even if there is no news, surely someone will wonder about the status of the bottom of Kim Kardashian. Right? So my question to you is that, about creativity and data, I feel that we're receiving too much data. I feel exhausted with data. And I think that all this data does not allow me to create because I don't have enough free time. And sometimes I like to get less so I can think more. And that's my question to you.
So I'm gonna invite everyone to give sound bites to their questions and comments because a lot of people want to contribute. So maybe we'll take the 2 more questions and then do a round. Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I love technology as a youngster and entering the next generation of work and stuff. Technology has probably helped the youngsters a lot for freedom of speech, getting your name out into the world. But my question is that with all those new technology, are we not losing touch with reality with our friends and peers as artists and musicians are spending more and more time with technology and indulging in technology itself? So would that not be detrimental to our creativity and imagination?
I have a question for Dr. Egan. I hope that I don't repeat the question that was asked. Yes, I would like to know the role that institutions play in influencing creativity. Like the previous question that you talked about Samsung being a platform to create creativity. Because digital technology is fairly new, do you think that digital technology is new enough to create a platform for outsider artists to voice their creativity? Or do you already think that digital technology already has very clear-cut gatekeepers that are informing us in what is creative?
I kind of missed the question around data and accessibility, so I'm not going to actually respond to that. But in terms of your question about the need to connect with other people, and what I've seen in the different kinds of work that I've done and workshops that I've done through the festival is that there's a massive need there. We've done future explorations, like future products, like workshops around what is this, make a package for a future product. And in one workshop, basically everybody made fantasy products that would help them connect with other people. I think the feeling of being disconnected and overwhelmed by technology is huge. And it's something that really has to be dealt with now. I mean, every second thing that you see advertised is an app that helps you be more spiritual, or an app that helps you calm down, you know? And that's a real problem, and I think it's something that maybe your generation actually needs to help us solve, because I don't know, maybe as old people have gone too far, I'm not sure. And then with regards to your question about what can institutions do to, you specifically said outside of arts, which kind of intrigued me, because there is that difference of people making things naturally in the world, and he was saying like how the internet has allowed a voice for people that wouldn't necessarily ordinarily be recognized. And if you look at YouTube, and if you look at Facebook, the amount of stuff that people make who aren't necessarily in a mainstream of something is enormous, and I don't think we even fully understand that yet.
I'm going to talk a bit about the data, because I know we are being overwhelmed by data, but I think I'm born in 80, so I really was in between print and digital, and probably we were not educated to watch this, but that's the history of media. We never learn critical spirit, I don't know if you say that in English, to the kids, so they cannot really analyze and criticize what they're listening to. And before we were saying, it's true, I read it on the newspaper, and after that was TV. It's true, I saw that on the news. And today, because we are doing virtual reality, immersive kind of content, we have some kids telling it must be true because I met these combatants. While he forgets that we did an editing of the interview prior to presenting the interview to these kids. So we are doing this for this project, but this is not something we are used to. And we know youngsters very daily are watching a lot of the screens, and it increases a lot of brain kind of hyperactivity pathologies. And as soon as you stop that for 2 weeks, it's amazing how the kids is back to talking to human beings, actually. So I know we have a lot of data, but I think Facebook and a lot of big data owners are more experiencing others and using the data we provide, because we are connected all the time to Facebook, and we should probably be more reasonable in this use, then I think it's also the human being who's like this, being addicted to having those notifications today. It was another addiction before, but I don't think it's the data who's bad. That's what I was trying to say here.
Personally, with connection, we all have to at some point drop whatever technology we carry with us and actually interact with the next person, like who's sitting by you. And I think that's the only way you can truly feel connected. I mean, you can do video calls, but it's not the same.
I just think if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Just if you're being difficult with the amount of notifications on Facebook, just leave Facebook. But also, I'm a historian, so I choose to engage with all documents. I have WhatsApp, that's where you can get me, that's what it's about. So I really think it's about choice, and I think it's about the politics behind your uncomfortability. It's about thinking deeper as to what that uncomfortability is, because it isn't about, like Mark was suggesting, that actually you're reimposing neo-colonial relations by engaging in something. What is it that's causing uncomfortability is a question of politics, but just don't do it if you don't want to.
I hear about this computer. It's the IBM computer, Watson. So it took a whole bunch of pictures from Gaudí, which is a famous architect, and then made a chandelier Gaudí style. So I am wondering what you think about IA taking over the work of artists or of architects. I don't know. That's my question.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is super interesting, right? Because basically we're using artificial intelligence to negate the huge amount of data that exists in the world and that we've now digitized. So it's recreating an interface so that we ourselves as humans can better understand what we've made. Like that's how I understand artificial intelligence right now. It's this very complicated mechanism of translation more than anything else. The ease of use for the devices that we have, like talk to it rather than touch it. So it's a hard question to ask right now. I think there's the idea of what artificial intelligence could be isn't actually manifest right now, and there's a lot of working with data. I mean, Watson is a data crunching machine, and it basically works with algorithms and does different things with data. So I don't think it will replace an artist because it's basically taking the data that artists have produced. It's not necessarily making anything else. We're still human. I mean, we've got to look at ourselves somewhere. Yeah.
Decolonizing the tech space. I forgot what it was titled, but it made me think that now we have this Black Panther movie coming out, and I thought it was really interesting that Black Panther is supposed to be this world that is completely decolonized, and they have the best tech in the world in this imaginary world. But the tech seemed very familiar and not really original, and thinking, okay, if you're going to take Africa, I didn't see the culture, and I remember we were discussing, there was a talk, I don't know if it was at Fabulous or another festival, where the person was talking about how we need as Africans to sort of say, okay, what were our old technologies? So if trees were telling me this, and if plants were telling me this, because that was technology. And then say, okay, what is the future and what is this? I just when I was watching Black Panther and I think about new creativity, I thought that was really not creative at all. It didn't seem new tech at all. It seemed very much yeah.
I've heard a few debates about technology replacing skill. For example, like a musician can simply speak into a mic and then hit an audio button, and all of a sudden they have a high pitch and not hitting all the notes. Or somebody with the best software, computer software, can just image trace something and then call it their piece of work. So I've heard a lot of debates about that. But my question is for anybody who wants to answer this. As a creative, how do you stay across the line? How do you make sure that you're different? What do you do to make sure that you're not a copycat? You're still innovative in your craft and you're still over the edge.
I think all the time, even Mozart had people working for him. the audience would just prefer having a probably fantasy about the story of this genius. But we forget it's collaborative work. And I think that's all I can do about that, because
I'm going to go back to your question, which is like a really great question. It's like totally up my alley. Yeah, that's exactly that. So when I was looking at the decolonizing aesthetic practices, so we're basically looking at, I looked at a lot of pre-colonial understanding of what technology is, and also how technologies had kind of ghosted African cultures in a way. Like I was just saying this to you guys earlier, there was this amazing writer called Linda Collier who looks quite a lot at technology and culture on the continent, and she basically talks about access to ghosts and how during the colonial period African cultures were recorded, but they weren't necessarily allowed to participate in the actual modernism of what technology is, and that the access now, we were talking about this in relation to archives, to that stuff is always an access to a history that is somehow recorded or not there. But what no one has really done is actually look at how if in the fantasy world, in a kind of speculative space, we explore what pre-colonial technologies were, like plant law, like healing, like different kinds of mathematics that were very egalitarian. They were part of culture. Technology was part of how people lived. It wasn't a separate thing. And what we've got now is this idea that technology is separate from us. And that comes from a kind of very kind of Christian dualistic position in the world. But yes, exactly. And I think when you talk about Black Panther, what you're really looking at there is a history of Hollywood. You're not looking at an interrogation of what technology is and how it fits within cultures and politics and that kind of thing. It's an extended view on futurism, which doesn't necessarily belong to anyone but Hollywood. And yeah, that's the kind of thing that's trying to happen. Yeah, okay.
The fact that as a human you've got a different experience to the next person, I think that's what differentiates you from the other. And I've had a question recently, I think it was this weekend, where it asked what makes you different from other artists. And I was like, well, I'm a different human, like I was born in a different place. I think that's what makes me different, but that's not how I answered it. But I think the answer they wanted was the fact that we all imitate at some point, and I think it's a matter of you doing it better or actually mixing it up with other influences. So you will have a point of period while creating, and it will be said, that looks like this person's work. And that could easily kill your creativity, but everyone started somewhere and ends up somewhere through all the experiences we go through, and that makes you great.
So I'm in Nuit now, and I need to kind of decide what I want to study in university. And I've been wanting to study animation, and that brings art and technology into stuff. And the one main concern that I had was, is technology advancing too quickly for someone else to learn and actually master the technology?
My question is a little bit controversial because I hear technology and I'm a guy with technophobia. And the reason for which I'm phobic about technology, because there's a country that has been at the center of each and every industrial revolution. Yet, that country is encountering a genocide since 1885, if not before. It was at the verge for the planes and everything. Today, with your iPad, with your phone, which creates the connectivity between people, the same country has been going through a genocide. 12 million people killed. 1.5 million children that cannot access education because they are soldiers. And yet, nobody's talking about it. I want to ask the panelists, because I hear decolonization, I hear creativity, art. How do we create if at the same time we are killing human lives. And I'm not talking about, what about this decolonization? When we are not talking about the history of a country that has been at the center of every single creation on this earth. I don't want to speak about that country, but you know it.
Thank you.
I would like to raise a particular concern regarding as visual storytellers, we rely a lot on reference to express ourselves, depending on what it is that we wish to express, to the extent of either rendering something out realistically or stylizing it to a certain extent. So when I was watching Mozart, right, I saw it as the perfect reference because I've never seen such speck on a black shoe. I've never seen someone who's polished the shoe and it looks so shiny. Yeah. And if you can use it as reference as an artist, I feel like your art will improve because it actually helps you understand how certain materials work and how certain materials interact. I don't think in this day and age there's anyone who's shiny shoes the way that it was shine in that video at Mozart. And it's about the music, but what I noticed was it was more than just the music that I was concerned with. It was also understanding how things interact. You know what I mean? So I also, in regards to visual storytelling, history is also important to give your character, if you're a character designer, a certain backstory. And what I realized with how can we access the archives to strengthen our character designs and to strengthen the stories that people create in games. You know what I mean? If you play Assassin's Creed, a lot of characters had certain backstories, even to the extent of the ring that they make has a certain story behind it, and how they differentiate every other character in there. So how can we use these archives in our visual storytelling and how can we access it to develop our characters and arts in that way?
Thank you. So for those of you whose question we can't take, please feel free to hang around. The artists will be here still for a bit. So ask them directly, have conversations. I think we still have some wine outside. So, well, feel free to mull around. So I'm going to pass, who would like to go first? And just respond to the question that you connected with the most. So be authentic and true to, you're here, vulnerable, sharing your own story. So respond to something you connect with. And if there's anything else you'd still like to close up and share, now's the time.
I think the question that that caught my attention is especially with the production of technology. And I recently got a phone just end of November, and it's supposed to be the latest technology, and I know by the end of this year there will be another one that replaces it. And I'm in panic. First of all, I won't have that money to buy that phone. And does it mean my ideas won't be as great now because I don't know what's new on the new technology? So I think it's also a personal choice at the end of the day. If do you want to engage with technology, do you want to be the first person queuing for that phone? But then I feel like if you constantly that person, I think you're just ending up following trends instead of setting up trends. So I think it's important that you engage when you feel you have to, but not engage because it's enforced on you.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful question, by the way. I thought what she was saying and thinking is exactly kind of what someone with an archive wants to hear as well. And the possibilities that you'll see in the detail of that space is just incredible and very exciting. And for the girl who's in Utrecht and who's worried about being left behind, I just want to say that I've been teaching at Wits for 10 years, and what I was teaching 10 years ago, I'm not teaching today. And what I learned in high school, and when I was in high school, we didn't even have a computer. Yeah, I was South African, okay? So I think the thing is that technology is always changing, and there's no definitive end. So if you're interested in animation, and it'll always be changing, and don't expect you to you know, high school sets you up to think about that you have to learn something, and that's all you've got to learn. You'll be continually learning with technology as technology grows. I don't really have much, I can't name getting tired, but I just want to say thank you very, very much for the invitation, and it was actually very exciting for me to meet the two of you, and to you, because I've never met you before. When you're in Johannesburg, you think you know everybody, no. And this is a really special and exciting connection to be part of. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm going to add something on you about the lady looking for her path. The thing is, today there's no job that will be sustainable, because in 10 years robots will take the lead. So I would suggest that you just follow what you feel inside you is your passion, because that's the only way you keep up being innovative and being passionate by your job. I was broke for 5 years to be here today, and I chose not the easy way, but the way I am, and it's the best way. And regarding your question, Mister, I won't talk about decolonization because I'm French, but I know that more people have access to smartphones today than to good water. And I know that with my project, we need to open reconciliation in Israel, Palestine, Congo, Salvador. I am using smartphones, so definitely blood from Congolese, the Congo people. But at the same time, this is the only way I found to reach most people, because they have the smartphone and I don't know anything about water engineering. So I don't think you're a technophobia. I think you are questioning what we are doing with it, and it's true that our choices as human beings have not been so good so far. That's it.
Yes, so I'd also like to respond to you, so thank you for bringing the politics into the situation. And I think that's what's important, like even the trick student. It doesn't matter what you do, but there's an urgency, and to probably do a terrible job of paraphrasing phenomenally. He says that every generation has to discover its historic mission and either fulfill or betray it. And so I think it comes back to this feeling, this hesitance, this want to reject some things or to accept others and use them subversively against the powers like Samson gave them to you. I think there's intellectual political work that has to go in behind that. You have to have an idea, and your uncomfortabilities will go away, and they'll be replaced with frustrations, but those are a lot more active and produce results, because we can't ignore the fact that coltan is required in pretty much every technological device here, and there's no like fair trade coffee for it either. So thank you for that. I think it was really important, and thank you for your question. That's great. I mean, but exactly, if you can use the archives to build your characters, the descriptions in there are insane, because this is the apartheid state now trying to imagine black bodies. They come up with some stuff. Anyways, yeah. So thanks everybody.
You know, so we're looking at the question of the evening, do new technologies mean new creativity? What stood out for me is that with each of the speakers and artists, what they're creating and offering the world is deeply personal. And they're finding the form of technology to support their work in expressing themselves. You know, and I think for me as a social entrepreneur at heart, you know, I see that there are many causes in the world to take on. And it's quite overwhelming, and also responding to your question, sir, is that quite often we need to connect to that issue we authentically connect to, you know, and we'll make that bridge. Hopefully the world will get into a place where we're taking on big issues together, and to me that's the power of collaboration. But again, it starts with the self, it starts with that deep individual connection and seeing where and how can technology support where and how we shift as cultures, how we bring creativity to the world. And as we've also seen, that technology can also inspire creativity. It's not just, it can go either way. Also just connecting to earlier the ambassador was speaking about the power of imagination, which is the overarching theme for the evening. For me, again, being in the innovation space, you cannot be innovative without imagination. It's literally the seed. So thank you for inspiring us this evening. as the panelists, thank you for inspiring us as the audience and not holding back on your tough questions. The point of the evening was not to achieve consensus. It is to spark our thinking, to spark our sense of imagination, and to take the conversation forward beyond this. Thank you to the French Institute and all the partners for bringing the evening together and making it possible. So please stay, connect, and feel free to come back to Tshimologong anytime.